Well, surprise, surprise, the government's been lying to us again, and in particular, they've been lying about the cost of this awful Chagos deal. Now it transpires that the whole thing's going to cost £35 billion. And it's a freedom of information request that has to be put in to wring every last drop of truth out of this current administration that we've got. And it's just disgusting. They are treating the people like morons.
Can I ask you about the Chagos Islands deal? Because there's been a lot of debate, hasn't there, and dispute about the figure of this deal and how much it actually costs. And in public, Sir Kier Starmer has put it at £3.4 billion. But there's a Freedom of Information request, and it's the front page of the Daily Telegraph today, that puts the true cost at 10 times that, at £35 billion. Has the government intentionally misled or lied to the British public?
No, and I want to be very clear with your viewers today that we do not recognise that figure at all. The Prime Minister has been forthright in saying that the true cost of this is that £3.4 billion figure. It is less than 0.2% of the defence budget, which is less than the cost of an aircraft carrier. And all of that in order to keep national security safe. The United States are on board with this agreement to make sure that we can maintain that military base on Diego Garcia for national security, and we think that is what's needed in order to protect our British citizens.
Right, Alex, I just want you to be clear on that, because we have had the Shadow Chancellor, for instance, on this morning talking about this and quoting about this, and these figures have come as a result of a Freedom of Information Act request. So are you sure what you're telling us is correct?
I'm very sure, Eamon. The government does not recognise this figure. The stated figure that the Prime Minister has said is £3.4 billion over the course of the lifetime of this deal. It's around £100 million a year in order to maintain that military base on Diego Garcia, in order to maintain national security, and that is the true cost of this scheme.
The Telegraph today says this is an official document produced by the government's own actuary department, and it puts the figure at £34.7 billion.
And I've told you, we do not recognise that figure. The true cost of this scheme over the lifetime of the deal is £3.4 billion.
Is this a good deal for Britain? I mean, lots of our viewers asking this morning, well, the cost would be zero if we weren't actually handing something back to then lease it back for however much it costs.
For the cost of 0.2% of the defence budget of the United Kingdom, less than the cost of an aircraft carrier, we are maintaining that strategic military base in Diego Garcia, safeguarding the future security of the United Kingdom and ensuring that our allies, such as the United States, have access to that. We think that is the right course of action and the right deal to make.
So that's how it gets positioned in the media. He said, she said, and a little obfuscation there, and nobody really knows what's going on by the end of it. But that's not true at all. The government have used an accountancy trick here. Now, in May, it was claimed by Kier Starmer, and he repeated this over and over, that it would cost £3.4 billion over 99 years. That was repeated over and over. However, in nominal terms, it looks like the cost of the deal is actually £34.7 billion. And in this Freedom of Information request that's been put in, which has nailed the government's feet to the floor, it explains that the government, when they were estimating the costs to the public, decided to use a special inflation method. And then they reduced that number again using a different accountancy method, sometimes used for long-term projects. So what they're saying is we can use a special percentage rate for all of these things, and what we can do is we can reduce the cost of that over the term. However, this is the only thing, the only government project that has that accountancy rule applied to it. So if you look at any other thing on there, like for instance the housing project that Angela Rayner has embarked on, HS2, whatever it is, they don't use this clever little accountancy percentage trick, which is in effect lowering the amount that we owe. It's just lying on paper, that's what it is. So the government are coming out and saying, well, this is just a different accountancy rule, but really there's no other project has had this applied, because if they would have had this applied, then they would have had to put that into the budget and the proper public finances. And so the government has been lying about that. So they've been caught lying, and what do? They come out with a lie, an accountancy lie, and a compound interest lie, and treating us like absolute idiots.
This cost is part and parcel of using Britain's global reach to keep us safe at home. And it will be less than the cost of running one aircraft carrier for a year. Today's agreement is the only way to maintain the base in the long term.
Kier Starmer was lying. That's it. It's just a lie. He wasn't telling the truth. He was lying about it. He's been caught lying. And now they're coming out and they're still lying to cover up the previous lie. And this is the most insulting part of it. When the government has been caught out, and it's plain for everyone to see, the government lied to us at the time. They lied about the cost. And everyone said it's going to cost more, and the government lied in the Houses of Parliament. Prime Minister's questions, the Prime Minister lied about this. And what's going to happen? Nothing. They're just going to kind of ride this storm out like they ride the rest of the stuff that's going on. But at some point, the accumulation of this stuff is going to topple this government, because the amount of stuff clogging everything up, lying on top of this government, lie upon, useless at politics, useless at their jobs, useless at the economy, and now giving away strategic military advantage of this country, giving that away, and paying tens of billions of pounds to a nation who is allied with the Chinese Communist Party. These decisions taken back then, now, and going forward, and everything else that we're doing, these decisions are starting to look extremely suspicious, in my opinion. Why? For what purpose? When every other member of Parliament at the time who'd read all of the official stuff, the briefs that the normal general public aren't allowed to read, when they'd all read them, they all said the same thing. There's no problem, we don't have to hand the islands to Mauritius. But our Prime Minister wanted to do that because, of course, his friends have been campaigning for many years before he arrived in power on this topic. And because at his heart, Kier Starmer is a human rights lawyer, and because all of his friends are human rights lawyers, and they don't understand the meaning of the word patriotism. You know, just kicking more mud in the face of the people when caught red-handed. They still lie. Absolutely unbelievable. Thanks for your time.